Bongo Familia. How are we, señoras y señores? Hope everyone is well. Hope the pencils are in. Hope the work is flowing. Hope the invoices are being paid on time and everyone is feeling abundant and beautiful. I've had quite a few conversations recently in this last year and a half, maybe 2 years, where people have felt fearful of the industry, where it's going, their jobs, their income. And I felt like it was time to just do a little bit of a sideward step from the normal ep where we talk about something specific happening in the industry, or an ep where we talk to someone about what they do and how they do it. And I got on a guest who is a dear friend and was my mentor when I was on a property mastermind course. And what the course gave me, as well as the knowledge about property, it also helped me understand and change my mindset, my limiting beliefs, my worries around money, my fear about being enough as a human, as a person, as a father, as a son, as a husband and a brother. And we do talk about things that are happening in the industry, but our guest today is so knowledgeable about human design and what we think and why we think it, and the effects that those thoughts and those feelings can have on us as individuals. And he talks about his 7 steps to overcome fear, and we go through some really tangible, logical steps to just help anyone that's going through a difficult time, and anyone that is having difficulty having a career in what is, in my opinion, the greatest industry on the planet. It, as I said on the other ep, a good film, a great piece of content can really change lives. And it takes me back to Charlie Chaplin, Dictator, the speech that he gives at the end. And if you haven't watched it, please just type into YouTube Charlie Chaplin, Dictator, Great Dictator, or The Dictator speech. It's 3 and a bit minutes long, and it's a beautifully scripted, wonderfully acted scene that was the first time Charlie Chaplin did a talkie, a speaking film, and was the first time that he broke the fourth wall and stared at the camera. And we know that things are shifting. The whole world is shifting, and companies, industries, technology is changing and evolving at a pace that is so rapid that it can bring some fear, and it can bring some unease, some dis-ease. And I hope that this episode helps someone, even if it's one person that listens to it, give them some tools to be able to heal themselves, better themselves, create a new version of themselves, the one that is doing and being the person that they were meant to be on this planet. And we're here for a reason, and things happen to us for a reason. And if you take away the attitude to losing a pencil or making a mistake at work is good and bad, and just take it as an opportunity to learn and grow, life becomes really simple and easier. And the easier it feels, the better the flow. And the more you're flowing, instead of trying to swim upstream, things happen. Coincidences happen. The person on set that you spoke to that you didn't know is friends with the person that then gets you your next job. And that's not me saying pretend to be someone else and be that, clown, super happy, always smiling. But just understanding that every job, every interaction, has a purpose, and trying to be in a loving state and be kind. And it brings us back well, it doesn't bring us back, but we have a little mantra with my two bambinos, mis nenes. I've got a 9-year-old boy and a 5-year-old girl, and every morning that I can and I take them to school, we always give our little besitos, our little kisses, and I shake their hand and I look at them in the eye, and they repeat to me, be kind, have fun, try your best. And it took a few iterations to get it to that. But if you can be kind, choose kindness. If you can find the fun in everything you do, the day will go amazingly. And they're 3 simple things that I hope, be kind, have fun, do your best. So I'll leave you with that, and let's get to the episode.
Ladies and gentlemen.
So, Film Got Familia, welcome to another wonderful episode. As you would have heard in the intro, it's a little bit of a left field, different type of episode today, but with the current climate, with everyone and every subject matter that I speak to people on set, always reverting back to how fucked, and I'm going to just straight up say a swear word in the first minute of the podcast, how bad, how negative some people are feeling, how terrible their situations are because of the industry. I just wanted to get on our guest today, who, when I realized that I needed a secondary source of income, so I went on a property course. He was the property and business mentor of mine on the course. And not only did he help me understand so much about myself, there's a lot of the spiritual and other and esoteric elements of life that I've started to really dig deep into, that I just, every time I got a question, I hit this man up on WhatsApp and he just gives me such a phenomenal answer. So I just wanted to get someone on who might just be able to give us some tools, help us understand maybe what we're feeling, why we're feeling it, the anxiousness or the fear that some of you have kind of said to me on set. And I just want to dig into how we can help ourselves get through this time, and give you some tools to then maybe help you through other things that happen in life. If you go through, so much that we go through as humans is about our emotions and how we're feeling and how we deal with it. And I'm going to stop waffling because I really want this man to spend more time talking than I am. So thank you for coming on. Just give the listeners, so just give us your name and then just give us a little bit of your background as to what you've done to get to this point.
Okay, so my name is Dominic Beecheno, and I'm very fortunate because I discovered my passion, my career back in 2006 when I did a coaching course. I found out that I absolutely love helping other people succeed. So I became a business advisor, worked with over 2,500 small businesses all around London, diagnosing their needs, finding out what they needed each day, matching them with coaches and mentors, getting them training. And I just love helping people succeed. And I guess it comes from my own, difficulties in life. And that therein is the kind of the first insight. Often our greatest difficulties become our most treasured gifts, the things that help us learn and evolve. So yeah, for anyone who is finding it really difficult right now, it is actually a gift in disguise. And when you realize, in hindsight, you'll look back and go, that was the best thing that happened to me. So yeah, in short, I was a business advisor. I love helping people succeed. And in particular, I noticed that it's all very well giving people knowledge, but actually knowledge is not enough. 95% of who we are is entirely habitual. We are basically just a biological program, and we've been programmed mainly from childhood, from birth, when we learnt to be a human being, from the age of 0 to 12. We're in a different brainwave state. That's when you're learning to be a human being. And during that period, you made decisions about yourself, about how you think the world should work. And they're all survival mechanisms. And actually, that is what is holding us back when it comes to what we think is possible for ourselves. So anyone who's in fear at the moment for the film industry, basically you're resisting what is, for one, and two, that you feel limited by your thoughts effectively at the moment, and feelings. And so understanding those is one of the keys to getting over it. I mean, understanding is one of the big ones, but after that, there's also other stuff that you can do too. But yeah, I hope that's a little bit of an overview. I'm passionate about helping people, and particularly with psychology, I guess, understanding the way the mind works.
And there's a new course that you've got, which is the Unleash You, and the really interesting points there. You had like the seven topics,
Steps.
seven steps. Thank you very much to overcome fear. I just want to touch base on some of them because there are so many people that, as film crew, we are going from job to job. We are living check to check. We're not knowing where the next job's going to come from, and the amount of jobs seem to have dropped recently. So everyone, it feels like we're all fighting for the same job, and the amount of people, historically speaking, the majority of people have a decent year. But it feels like at this time, the amount of people that are having a decent year are much lower, and there's a slight inclination to kind of feel like it's you. What did I do? What did I say? Did I piss that person off? Am I not good enough? All the rest of it. So let's just touch base on some of those really logical processes and steps that can hopefully help people just start to overcome the fear that everything that's happening to them is their fault.
Yes. Okay. So one of the first principles would be that most people think they are self-aware. About 95% of people consider themselves self-aware, but the reality is, according to the stats and the research, it's only about 10 to 15% of people are actually self-aware.
And what does that mean, self-awareness?
Well, there we go. So let's go into that. So self-awareness, I would describe as the ability to spot your thoughts and spot your feelings, but not identify with them, not be them. You see, most people are just reacting to the world around them. They're not taking a moment to step back and go, you know what, my brain has on average 70,000 thoughts a day. I don't have to believe all of them. We get into a habit of believing all of our thoughts. So raise your self-awareness so that you can choose to go from being reactive, oh my goodness, there's not enough money, where's my next job going to come from, all these other thoughts that are going on in your head, to being proactive. Actually, what do I want to create? Who do I want to be? If I was to look back and go, I'm really proud of who I've become, what would the steps be that would get me there? So perspective on yourself, the ability to spot your thoughts, your feelings, will raise your self-awareness, and from there you're empowered rather than being disempowered, thinking that the power is out there. They're the ones who pay me, therefore I have to do everything that they say. What if you were to turn that around and go, well, why don't I just be who I want to be and use more of my intuition from an inner power rather than an external, I should be doing this, rather than a fear-based, because most of our thoughts are fear-based. 77% of thoughts are based on fear. So thinking, rather than doing something, taking action on something based on fear, taking action based on inspiration, and like, this is what I'd really love to do. This is the difference I want to make. This is what I really love to. This is what I love. This is what I enjoy doing. Do more of that, because then you'll be less scared anyway, and less limited, and you'll probably find that life flows a bit better. Well, that's certainly what I found. Is when I'm in the moment, enjoying what I'm doing, that's when I have the best months. Because like you, I'm self-employed and I have to find work like everyone else. But when I'm relaxed and peaceful and happy, that's when things go better. So can I train myself to be relaxed, peaceful and happy on a more regular basis? And the answer is yes, absolutely. And the first step is spotting the fear, choosing to not react to it, but actually be proactive in its face, and moving towards what I want rather than what I'm scared of.
Because so every time I'm reading kind of the spiritual books or listening to people that are talking about those topics, they say there's two different types of people. There's the victim mindset and then there's the creative mindset. So victim and creators. And I think as an industry, we're we're being hammered so much that the victim mindset of an industry seems to be bubbling up a little bit more. And actually, the more I've relaxed into, we're all in this boat together as an
Yes.
industry.
Yes.
Things are changing. AI is coming. AI is here. The way that we shoot content is, everything seems to be adjusting. And just as soon as I kind of was at peace with, this is how we used to do it, it's changing. How we do it now just has to evolve with the times. It was just a nice little wave of calmness. It was just like, look, it is what it is. We'll
Yes.
do what we do, and we'll shoot what we shoot, and we'll work on what we work on. But
Yeah.
I like the idea of creating that vision for yourself. So it's like,
Yes.
there'll be people here that are focus pullers that really wants to work with a specific DOP, or an actor that really wants to work with a specific director. It's like, what are some steps that they can do to just start to change that mindset and lose that fear?
Yes. Okay. So, great question. Basically, let me take a step back and explain fear. So, fear is obviously natural, keeps us,
It's
it's a
alive.
survival technique.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Keeps us away from predators from back in the
77%.
day.
Oh, yeah, there we go. It's all about survival. It's all about keeping you safe. It's reducing risk, and that's why you'll stay alive. But there's kind of real fear, like, I don't know, falling off a cliff, versus fear that we've made up in our head. Oh, I might not get paid this month or next month or whatever it might be. I might not have enough money. That's all projected into the future. It's not actually real. So when it comes to the steps needed to overcome it, is one, we've got to, I would say, start to meditate, start to notice your thoughts rather than being your thoughts, and spot it and kind of go, I've spotted it, and tell yourself a word like spotted it, or fear, or say something to yourself every time you spot yourself going into a fearful thought, a negative thought. By the way, all negative thoughts are usually fear-based, and all fears are fears of feelings. So that's the other thing. It's like, actually, when you have a negative and fearful thought, you just, it's a feeling that triggers it. So spotting it is one, and turning it around and going, how can I empower myself here? How can I change that thought to something else? Sometimes it is quite difficult. We get into a bit of a spiral. Personally, I like to go for a walk in nature. Nature is the greatest healer. So meditation, go for a walk in nature, speak to a friend, because a problem shared is a problem halved. You always feel better when you speak to someone about what's going on for you. And basically you have to retrain your brain to go from thinking and fearfully and feeling fearfully to, how do I, change it into something that's proactive, that's empowering, and where you can effectively recover from being fearful or feeling low quickly, so that you can get back to that state of peace, which is hopefully what most people are in the majority of the time. Think of a tennis player. If they lose a point, they need to recover quickly to start feeling better again to win the next point. Otherwise, they're going to lose the whole match. So it's that recovery time. That's what emotional intelligence is. It's that recovery time, because everyone's going to feel low. You're going to feel low. I'm going to feel low. It's part of being human. But if we can recover quickly, because we've got these methods of, one, spotting it, two, going for a walk, meditating, speaking to a friend, dancing, listening to some music, anything that's going to change the chemistry in your body, that's going to make you feel different. If you feel different, you're going to think differently. If you think differently, then the things are going to go better. So we've got to train ourselves, and we can do that consciously. And that's what most training companies will tell you to do, take action on things. The other ways to do it, well, sorry, not the other ways, but one of them, I mentioned meditation. That would be when you're doing it for yourself. You're training your brain, you're spotting your brain, having those thoughts, and choosing to disengage from that thinking pattern and choose a different route. So you can train yourself to think differently through meditation, through breath work that helps you get into a nice deep meditative state. And the other one, which is something I'm a really big fan of, is something called rapid transformational therapy. And that's where it goes back into the original childhood programming, where you came up with that survival technique of, I'm not going to confront that difficult conversation. For example, a lot of people don't like confrontational conversations, so they stay away from them. So, and that might be a fear-based survival technique. What you could do with rapid transformation therapy is you go back to that original scene, and you might not know what that original scene is, by the way, in your childhood, where that belief was created, and you effectively understand how it was useful to you to this point, but it's no longer useful now. You reprogram it through coaching and neuro-linguistic programming, and then you get a hypnosis, which you listen to for at least 21, 30 days. And that in that relaxed meditative state, you're then being informed the right information of who you do want to be. And so that is a short version of what is rapid transformation therapy. And that's very powerful for helping you reprogram subconscious, self-sabotaging, limiting beliefs.
Yeah, I just actually downloaded I've been doing the Mind Valley app, and one of the courses on there is the RTT, and because there's, I guess, from a film crew perspective, cash flow is king. You got to be working, you got to be paid, and so there was this lack mindset around money, around cash flow, and it was a really interesting. I couldn't remember the actual age, but it felt like I was around that kind of 6, 7. And I was sitting at the top of the family, sitting on the stairs. It was Easter weekend. I knew that we were going to be going to church on the Sunday, and I knew that I'd be going to the sweet shop. So I got my money out, and I was, counting all the things to see how many sweets. And I just remember my mum kind of coming past. She was walking into the kitchen. She was like, "Why are you counting your money? Jesus was kind of effectively sold today." And I was like, "Oh, fuck. Oh, yeah. Okay." So then there was this little thing about my head about, if you're going to be rich, you can't be spiritual. If you're going to be rich, money is, all those kind of questions about being good and having money just started to come up. And that was a really interesting kind of thought process where you go, I programmed the concept of having money with Jesus being killed effectively. So, it was like this, I was like, oh, wow. Okay, cool. So there's a lot to be said for all of these modalities of trying to heal and just become a better person.
Yes, and become more self-aware of where it came from, because that's another step would be to understand the root cause of the limiting belief. So if the limiting
another one of
belief
the steps.
Right, it is exactly right.
Come on, we're on topic. Here we go.
Understanding the root cause of where it came from, like you've just articulated, and it's funny you should bring that one up now, because I'm actually currently on a rapid transformational therapy process right now, and it was around limiting beliefs around money. And one of the scenes that came up for me was that my dad had paid a builder, a decorator, to do the decorating in the kitchen, and he wasn't doing it well enough. My dad could have done it better himself. And also I felt bad because my mum had told my dad to pay someone to do it rather than him doing it himself. So it was like a double thing of like both my parents resenting spending money or telling someone else to spend money, and so there was that resistance effectively to effectively spending money, or feeling like it's a waste if you spend it. So just really interesting to understand where things come from, and they're often not necessarily what you think. Just another example, nice scene, a little girl age 6, she was making a cake with her grandma, beautiful scene, but at one point the grandma takes the mixing bowl off the child and goes, "I'll do that now." And in that moment the child thinks to herself and decided and made that program within her, I'm not good enough to mix that bowl.
Wow.
And it's so sad. It's like heart-wrenching to think about it. But a little thing like that will impact that person. And, for the rest of the life, for the next 30 years, she believes she wasn't worthy. Other scenes happen that also reinforce it, but that was the original one. And
does
it's
that then self-perpetuate the kind of, you get hammered with a tiny little pinprick from a family member, from someone who doesn't, they're not even aware.
Not malicious.
No, it's like, I got 2 kids. I'm like, oh my God, listen to that story. I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, what have I done to my children? Because I've definitely gone, I'll just do your shoes, I'll do your tie, I'll do, that kind of stuff. Wow.
It's nuts, isn't it? So everyone has had scenes like this happen to us. And so we all have these sort of micro traumas that then develop into a limiting belief that holds us back or makes us worry constantly about money, or lack of something, or not feeling worthy, or not being good enough, or not trusting our decisions. That was another one, a big one for me. I ran across the road from my neighbour's house to mine without asking my parents for permission. I was like 5 or 6 years old, and I almost got hit by a car as I do it. So then I don't trust myself. Like I just made a decision to cross the road, almost killed myself. I'm never doing that again. I'm never trusting myself again to make it a big decision. So these scenes happen to everybody. And so we all have them. And the better we can understand what the original scene was and reprogram it, the more empowered we become going forward. So that's why, so that would be another big step, is to understand your original programming and then choose to, to redo it, because it's a biological computer. We think we have identity and everything. It's all just repetition.
Yes.
You're listening to the words that are coming out of my mouth. It's just vibration. If I was going blah, 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 it wouldn't, it doesn't make sense to you. And that's why actually it's all just hot air coming out of my mouth, and you're making sense of it from a memory about what these words mean.
Wow, we're getting deep now.
We're getting deep into that, but
nice.
it's all just vibration, right?
Yes. Well, that kind of law of vibration, law of attraction, abundance, manifestation, trying to become better. Like the majority of people that listen to this will be film crew, and you step on a set and you have to very quickly put whatever is going on to the back of your head and just concentrate. It does honestly feel like one of the most spiritual environments to work in, because you've just got to be thinking instantaneously. Intuition. There's all of these things that happen on a film set that you don't get when you're sitting in an office and it's the same thing and it's 9 to 5, and you don't need to be creative and you don't need to be problem solving at the speed that film crew need to work at. It's a really, I mean, when you see a film crew and a film set working at the speed that it can and the unity and the harmony that it can. And someone actually said the other day, it was like when you will go onto a film set and you just have one bad egg, one person whose energy isn't right, it can really shift the whole room. But when you go on there and everyone just knows what we've got to do, everyone is working together, and that collective energy just pulls us through. Like you've probably never been on a film set. There are days that we have done things that I just thought were impossible. Absolutely impossible. We're never going to happen. We've got too much to do. There's not enough time. There's not enough time. That's my job. Never enough time. And then we get to the end of the day and you've completed it through some gift of God. And there is such elation. They're literally clapping and hooping and hollering. And this just wave of just positive, beautiful energy. And all you've done is work. And that's the thing, is that we sometimes have equated who we are to our job. So it's like you step on set and you're a runner. They go, "Oh, you're a runner. Oh, just go to the thing. Oh, you're the first AD. Oh, do you want to park? Oh, you're the deep. Oh, do you want to park here?" So it's this really strange dichotomy of, it's a very ego-based driven industry, but actually when there's no ego, it just flows so much nicer.
Yes.
But there is a hierarchy. There has to be a hierarchy, because someone needs to make the decisions and we all need to do what that person is saying.
Right. That's amazing.
Well, the question is there. I thought it just felt like I needed to just put some context in there just for my life.
It's really interesting to hear, and I can only imagine. I haven't been on a film set before. I've seen a few programs being filmed, but I think that was very different to what you guys have to do, because it's so creative and it's not all in one studio, moving around lots of people. But you're having to think in terms of like the past of who's arriving when and who's doing what, to the present, right? We're doing this right now, to okay, what's happening next?
Yes.
And so you're both in the past and the future and in the present all at the same time. That must be exhausting. But as you say, when you're in the moment, and people are working together with less ego as much as possible, then magic happens. Yeah. Magic happens, and it's only when people are resistant and going, "No, it has to be this way. I want it," and they're trying to control without allowing a bit of flex. That's when I think people struggle. We think we can control the world, and actually, when we just are in the moment, doing what we love, doing the best we can, then it's in the Bible, not that religious, but when people get together and work towards something, magic happens.
Absolutely. And then so digging back into the 7 steps, we've got the strikes happen in 2023, so everything shut down. We've got a levy that might be coming. The government is talking about putting a tax on the streaming services to try and pull some cash out of them, which could then scare them away. You got Trump talking about sticking tariffs on stuff. Like, this man's it's crazy, but with all of this fear that seems to be building up, what are some other steps? What are part of the other steps? How many have we done? Feels like we've done like 2 or 3.
So if I summarize, so one of them would be I literally identifying the fear. So stop, like write it down. What is it I'm scared of? Like, I'm scared of not having enough money. I'm scared of not feeling like I'm good enough, because I'm not getting hired. Write down what the fears are. So that's number one. Number two is identify the root cause of where you think those fears came from. And by the way, on that note, I'm just going to digress slightly. Sometimes one of the greatest clues of where the root cause is looking back at your parents and your grandparents, because there's a lovely book. It's called "It Didn't Start With You," and actually a lot of the fears that you have basically been inherited almost genetically, a bit like some of the genetic diseases that we sometimes get through parents and grandparents. Your traumas can be inherited too. And so if I look back at mine, absolutely, there's traumas that I see that my parents had and my grandparents had, particularly if you're European, for example, and it was the Second World War, First World War, there wasn't enough food, there wasn't enough money. There's that fear, which still exists, I think, among an awful lot of people.
I remember one story, just talking quickly on that, is, and I remember my grandparents from my mum's side lived in the Basque region, Guernica, or Guernica for the English-speaking eared amongst us, got bombed, and so they shipped off thousands and thousands of kids to different parts. So my grandfather was 10, so he was able to do it, but if you were too old, you couldn't, and you had to stay in the country. So he came over as a 10-year-old with his brother, never went back. But my grandmother was too old, and she remembers, and she's saying it was like, if you had money, you had to hide it. So they had like little cubby holes that they would just hide the pockets of money, because if you had money, they were like, well, how did you get it? Where did it come from? It was like putting your head above the parapet to then be in danger of kind of being seen to have been helping someone or doing something that you shouldn't have. So that fear around money, which, the film business is a film business, but those generational kind of stories that your grandparents had told you, hey, listen to them, because there's going to be something in there that's going to resonate sometime later that suddenly makes sense.
Definitely. Yeah, so that's a fascinating area to look into is parents and grandparents, for you to spot where your own fears are. The next one I mentioned right at the beginning, which is to say reframe the fear as the gift, because it is there to try and help you awaken to the things that you're effectively disowning or you feel isn't there, when in fact it is. We are all whole. It's just that we sometimes feel not whole. You can't have one thing without another. You can't have a problem without a solution. So, guys, if you're feeling like you've got a problem and you can't solve it, know that the solution exists because the problem exists. It's like you can't have hot without cold. Like, they both define each other. You can't have a problem without a solution. Also, being present in some way. You might not like the solution, but there is absolutely a solution there. So reframe the fear into power. Kind of go, this is what I'm scared of. This is what I don't like. This is what that I'm resisting, and kind of get excited about that block. Like, oh my God, I'm really scared about not having enough money. Okay, how can I make this into a superpower? Because it's helping you trying to help you grow. And that is a fundamental human need, is that of growing. So know that it's there to help you. I could give you a quick example. The other day, I was feeling pretty low. I was scared about the money, but I just thought I'll have the conversation with this consultancy company that I was working with, and within 24 hours, it was sorted. It was like, I'm in a much better position now because I didn't resist the fear. I identified the fear. I did something about it. I was proactive. I thought, I'll be neutral. I'll have the conversation, and I'll see where it goes. And actually, it came out, and it was favourable. So when you embrace the difficulty and you do something about it proactively, going, I'll see what happens, then actually that's when things tend to go better. And even if you don't think they're going better, they are, because everything's happening for you, not to you. It's happening to help you learn and grow. So that would be step 3. Then I mentioned about the meditation and breath work to get out of your head effectively and into your body, because your body is actually the one that really knows the answer. So that's where you can, if you look into it, kinesiology, muscle testing, the body knows the answer to everything. Anything yes or no questions, it knows the answer to. Whereas your brain thinks it knows the answer to stuff, which is where the fear is, of course, in your brain. And so, you need to let go of trying to think your way out of stuff and actually feel more into it. So hence the meditation, hence the breath work. So that would be step 4. And then step 5, rapid transformational therapy, hypnosis, where you're actively reprogramming your mind from the subconscious state. Because here's the thing, you can't actually change yourself consciously. Well, it's not that you can't, it's just that your brain rewires itself when you're relaxed.
Which
When
takes
you're
us into brainwaves quite nicely, which from a working on a film set from a film set perspective, the right mindset to be in, that brainwave, that kind of flow state. It'd be nice just to get a little understanding of the different types of brainwaves. So it's like when they talk about sportsmen and women, when they're on that pitch, they're in a specific type of brainwave that just helps them to everything just slows down slightly, and they're just able to do more. So just a quick overview on brainwaves.
Yeah, sure. So obviously, this is not my research. It's all stuff that I've enjoyed learning and sharing. But basically, at the moment, you're on a beta brainwave frequency. You're hopefully relatively relaxed. You're just thinking. You're analyzing what's being said. You're filtering whether or not you believe what we're talking about. That's a beta brainwave frequency. You'll get more creative when you're even more relaxed, and you change your brainwave into an alpha brainwave state. So this is when you're like in the shower, when you have your best ideas, or out on a run, or swimming in your case, because I know you love swimming.
Yes.
Your best ideas are coming to you then, and that's because you're in an alpha state, and that often happens usually during sometimes exercise, when the body's moving, going for a walk, and you're out in nature and places like that. Those are the 2 conscious states. Beyond those, they're basically unconscious or subconscious states. You've got theta brainwave frequencies, which is as you slip into sleep, you're going out of thinking, analyzing the whole time into a theta brainwave state. And that's where you really get programmed. So when you're between the ages of 6 and 12, you're usually mostly in a theta brainwave state. So you're not analyzing so much, you're just letting things in. And that's why an awful lot of the programming happens to you during those ages of 6 to 12. Then you get lower into delta, which is basically sleep. So babies, obviously, they sleep most of the time. They're not filtering, but they're still absorbing everything. And you can actually still be awake. Obviously, you're not consciously awake thinking about things, but you can be in a delta brainwave state and also be, sitting up, meditating. And there, again, you're not filtering, so you're being programmed, or you're allowing yourself to be programmed if you're listening to hypnosis. There's something called a gamma brainwave state as well, which is different. It's kind of all of those states in one, and that's when you get an out of body experience, an incredible upgrade in who you are, and it feels almost spiritual. It feels out of body experience. It's out of this world, and you can get there through breath work with sometimes alternative substances as well.
Let's keep it. I don't mind swearing, but let's not turn this into a drug fest, Mr. Beecheno.
There we go. Yeah, I'm not going to recommend anything.
We'll start rocking DMT and psychedelics.
There we go. Yeah, I mean, you can microdose through the breath work.
Beautiful. Hey, look, God put it on the earth.
Exactly. So yeah, we have receptors in our body for it. Therefore, it is possible, and it is natural in a way. But anyway, so that gamma brainwave frequency is kind of the optimum for human upgrade, and I think we're going to do. Humanity will discover more and more about that over time. So those are the different brainwave states. There's 5. Yeah, beta, alpha, theta, delta, and gamma. But gamma's kind of all of them in one.
It's like the science of creativity. How to. If you've got directors that are trying to write a script or put a treatment together, or someone's trying to be creative, that understanding of actually there are brainwaves and there are frequencies you can listen to. I'm sure I've seen them on the
binaural beats.
Binaural beats. So trying to get into that creative space, that flow state, you can kind of biohack it.
That's right. Yeah, and it's all about getting into a relaxed state, basically, because the beta brainwave is basically where the fear lies, right? And high beta is when you're really stressed, and your brain operates differently. So you won't be creative when you're really stressed and fearful. You can only be creative when you're effectively relaxed or in flow. And in fact, a flow state is when you're in the moment, you're completely in the zone, you're loving what you're doing, and that's, creativity and will flow, and it's amazing. But you won't change your life from being stressed, because that's when the blood flow constricts and around the creative areas of the brain, around the prefrontal cortex, and is focused more on the amygdala, as it's called, which is the fear center of the brain, which is part of our reptilian brain from as we evolved from many years ago. So, and that's designed to keep us safe, which is why fight or flight, when you get stressed, you're energized. You've got cortisol and adrenaline in your blood, in your body, and it goes to your arms and legs, ready to either fight or run away. And if you don't use it, guess where it goes? Back into your stomach, which is why people put on weight. They don't sleep so well, and it's hard to shift that weight because you're stressed, and it's a downward spiral. So really, learning to not be stressed, learning to relax, is a superpower that I encourage everyone to do more of actively.
I'm gonna say that's the reason I got the little kind of dad bod rocking at the minute. It's been the stress of the last 18 months. That's what I'm putting it down to. So now that I'm more relaxed, 6-pack, baby, here we come. So that felt like about 5. Is that about 5?
That's right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's right. Yeah. And then so the last two would be taking action, as I mentioned right at the beginning, and this is what most training companies say. Here's the knowledge, do this, and you have to go away and take action. But the thing is, yes, absolutely, taking action is definitely the best way. How do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah, just with a bit of chili sauce. Lovely.
It's we have to take action. Yes, because action is where we can change things. So just taking steps towards whatever it is. You know what? If you're listening to this podcast and this is a lot of new information, just do one thing. Just maybe meditate for 2 minutes for the next 7 days. Just 2 minutes. Start with 2. And then maybe enjoy visualizing your future self for 5 minutes a day. Just start with something small. But the more you get into a habit of doing it, the more you're going to start to transform who you are, because you are what you think, feel, and do every day, right? And 95% of it is habitual. So unless we actually change our personality, we're not actually going to get different results. We need to deliberately program ourselves into a new person, the person who is successful, the person who is relaxed, the person who is enjoying the present moment, for example. So yeah, that would be actually that's step 7. So let me just go back and double check. Well, it was the RTT, it was the hypnosis. Yeah, and also, so here's another one. We think and we feel, and we take action, but also writing it down. So when you write down things like affirmations, because here's the thing, affirmations or writing down deliberate words about who you are becoming, people they might poo-poo it, but the thing is, dude, you're doing it anyway. You're beating yourself up unconsciously, going, oh, there's not enough money. Oh, there's not enough this. Or there's I'm not good enough at that. You're saying it to yourself anyway. So why don't you choose consciously to write down something positive about yourself and big yourself up?
Like the I am starting phrases.
Exactly. Yeah. I am starts with who you are being. So Isusko, who is the greatest boxer in the world?
Let's go ever, probably, for me, Muhammad Ali.
Exactly. Why? Because he said it, and everyone knows about it.
I'm the greatest.
I'm the greatest. Exactly.
And for a man of African American man at that stage of America's history, so courageous to just say it, and I think embodying that belief in yourself. I float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Exactly. I'm the greatest fucking AD. That kind, that positive output. As you said, you're either not choosing it and you're being down in the dumps and going through something, or you can just go, do you know what? I'm going to actively try and do and be who I want to be.
Exactly. Because you're talking to yourself all day, every day anyway. So you may as well talk yourself up. Be a little bit more American.
They do it so well. disgustingly so at times. It's the very British. Oh no, sorry, I was
Yes,
stiff upper lip.
I
Oh,
can't,
no,
I can't do
quite. I'm
that.
okay. It's like no, you're like a world-renowned psycho. No, I'm okay. It's yeah. Well, that's where the Spanish in me kind of comes out. It's like no, we're loud. We use that
Yeah.
throat chakra. That voice is out there.
There we go. Yeah.
Sometimes maybe I need to be a little bit more British and just rein it in. But that Spanish love of passion and
Yes.
people and family, and that's why I love the film industry, because we are a global family. Like, people around the world are going to listen to this, and I know that everything that you're saying is going to resonate to them, whether they're in the film industry or not, whether you
Yeah.
work in a bank, whether you work in Tesco's, in a shopping center, whatever you do, whatever job you're doing isn't who you are as a human being. That understanding of we are all, limitless, infinite beings, and nothing exists outside of ourselves, which is a phrase from one of the podcasts I listened to. It's like, it's true. It's like, and especially if you're trying to, and I put it in air quotes, but better yourself. But maybe it's more about just understanding who you are from where you've come from can then help you get to where you want to go. And putting yourself, as you said, taking action. There was a podcast that we did a couple of weeks ago, and one of the chaps, a director of photography called Simon Paul, who I always wanted to say Paul Simons just because it's just in my head, and I'm so pleased that I never called him Paul Simon. But he was talking about, that the physicality of taking action. He's like, yeah, look, I'm a DP. I've been doing it for ages. I'm, very experienced. I'm very good at what I do, and I'm super busy. And he's got his own studio, and he gets emails from people all the time going, "Hi, here's my CV. This is, I'd love to be part of your team or experience." Blah blah. He's like, the people that he loves are the ones, the students or the runners or the people that want to get in the industry, that just turn up at his studio and knock on the door and say, "Give me an opportunity." They're the ones that are going to probably get the opportunity more because you're there. It's harder to say no to someone when they're in your face in an email. Sorry, thank you so much for
Yeah.
your email. Kind regards. Never going to do anything about it.
Really good point. Taking action is the way forward, because, and also it's overcoming the fear, the feelings, right? Because we give in to our feelings so much. It's like sports. Is why it's such a big analogy, right? You do it even when you don't feel like doing it. And when you do, actually, that's when you change your chemistry. You change the way you feel, and then you start falling in love with the process of. And this is a character trait of really successful people, is that they just almost love being uncomfortable. Yeah. So life is always going to be uncomfortable. It's designed that way. It's to help you grow. So you may as well get used to the idea. It's like, you know what, this is going to be uncomfortable, but I'm going to do it anyway. I'm going to do that sport. I'm going to do that exercise because I know it's going to benefit my body. Yep. I know that if I eat more healthily and it's not quite as tasty as the fast food I could have had instead, actually it's going to benefit my body. So you do things despite it not feeling good. And then you train yourself into loving it, and then you benefit.
I love it. It's like the Bruce Lee quote. It's like, and I'm paraphrasing because I can't remember the exact wording that he used, but it was something along the lines of, I don't ask for an easy life. I ask for the strength to endure a difficult one. Yes, and you're like, yes, and there's the Marcus Aurelius, which I've dropped on this podcast a couple of times, which is, convince yourself that everything is a gift of the gods. Once you get into that mindset, the job that came in that penciled, that was going to, be an amazing job, that disappears, it's for a reason. Something's happened. And we said it offline that one of the jobs that I did many years ago when I was first starting to be a first AD, on paper, after the event, if you told me, "Hi, look, here's a job, do you want to do it?" I would have said, absolutely, there is no chance in hell that I'm doing that job. It was a promo for a company that I worked for once. We were supposed to, and I didn't get the call sheet, but I knew when to turn up and I knew where to be. And it was a, fairly busy day. We're in this warehouse over by, I think it was one of the markets just near Vauxhall before it became all the housing. And I turned up fully expecting to, see a crew of 30, 40 people, because we had sets to build and things to light and people and cast and all the rest of it. And I turned up and there was a director and a DP, and I was like, "Oh, it's 8 o'clock. We're on. There's no one. Like, where is everyone?" And they're like, No, it's us." I was like, "What?" But we got to build sets and we got to light that set, and we got to turn that into a like the heavens waiting room and stuff. Like, no, it's just us. I was like, oh, fucking hell. And at that point, I could have just gone, do you know what? Thank you so much. I really appreciate the opportunity, but this is nuts. But instead, I was there and I was like, let's just crack on. And it turned into a 2 day, and we ended up having to sleep on the floor of this like abandoned office. Ridiculous. But it was 2 days. And I thought, oh, well, it's, done it. Never going to see them again. Fine, whatever. And honestly, 2-3 months later, the director had got this job to go and film the Champions League for 3 months, the beginning of the next year, which is my dream job. And it suddenly just goes to show, do you know what? You put yourselves in these opportunities. It may look like a shitstorm, but actually there will always be a reason that you've been put in that situation, because something good will come out of it if you understand that there is a lesson to be learned.
Absolutely. Sometimes it's the hardest times or the worst times lead to the best ones. And that's why actually just being present, enjoying where you're at, because life is now. We think in terms of the past and the future. Actually, life is in this moment. So just enjoy this and know that it's all happening perfectly. And that's quite freeing.
Beautiful. And actually, we're getting to about the 45-minute mark of recording. And I could honestly talk to you, because we haven't touched base on vortex healing. We haven't touched base on like loads of things that actually we could spend another 2 hours talking about. And maybe that's going to be a part 2, because I know that your time is precious. And I firstly just want to thank you for giving your time, because you're a busy man and you're going, there's so much that you're doing, just to carve out an hour, just to try and bring some real life tools that film industry and beyond that can be using through a time of, as some people have said to me, it's kind of the most difficult time that they've had in their 20-year experience. It's the hardest year and a half, maybe 2 years of their professional life. And being able to just understand and give the listeners some tools to be able to kind of handle with it. And from a hands-on perspective, what I tend to do now is I always like to get there half hour before breakfast. So if you have a 7:30 call, turn up at 7 o'clock. So that half hour before I step out of the car and start being asked questions, I listen to a bit of meditation, or I do a Mind Valley kind of little segment, and just try and center myself, ground myself, just get calm and just enjoy that little 30 minutes a piece. And actually, on one of the podcasts, there was a dude that was like, look, even when you're at a red light, just instead of getting really angry that it's a red light, just go, do you know what? This is now giving me 2 minutes to just enjoy this moment and do a bit of breathing, or just have a little relax and enjoy it until the green light goes again. So thank you for coming on and giving us so much. I really, really appreciate it. At the end of the ep, I always ask 2 questions, which I didn't actually give you a heads up on. So I apologize, but I know a man of your wisdom and stature will be able to absolutely phenomenally destroy the main question that most people have, which is your advice to your younger self. And then the last thing that we'll do is just give you the floor, just to let anyone that wants to connect with you, go on one of your courses, just have a chat or something like that, just end the ep with just how people can connect. So, and what I've started to do recently with the advice to your younger self is find a point in time that feels like a good point for you to talk to. And it's normally for someone in the film industry, and it's normally at a point that has been a difficult point, but not really knowing too much of your history. Is there a point in your life that you now would want to talk to? And if there is, what advice would you give that younger you?
Oh, that's quite a big question. I think thinking off the cuff, and this is sort of what comes to me, would be basically several times in my past I've sort of let other people take advantage of my kindness, and then beat myself up and resented it, because I was putting their needs ahead of my own. I was a pleaser. So I think that if I was to speak to my younger self, it would be sort of age 23, 24, to respect myself more and say no earlier to people who they possibly weren't doing it maliciously, but I allowed them to kind of use and abuse my kindness and, work for nothing or not be paid what I should have been paid. So, but it was, that was a lesson for me. So actually, I don't resent it. It's just like I should have got the lesson earlier. I would have liked to have got the lesson earlier, but I allowed it to happen several times, and that won't happen again. So this is just part of learning and growing. So what I would say is, do what you love, and if you want to enjoy life even more, share what you love, and then you can't fail.
Oh, Mr. Round of the film gods, round of applause. So for anyone that's loved what you do and wants to connect, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
Thank you. Yes. So my name is pretty unique. Dominic Beecheno, Bwcheno. You can Google me and connect with me on LinkedIn. Obviously, put a message. Don't just connect willy-nilly. Put a message in there so that I know where you've come from. I'd love to speak with you. My website is www.unleash-u.com, and that's my program, which I'm absolutely passionate about, which helps people to get past those subconscious limiting beliefs that they don't even know are holding them back, and give them a framework for living happiness in everyday life. Because ultimately that's what we're aiming for, right? Everything that we're doing is to feel good. Yes. So actually understanding how to feel good without anything external, that's an amazing life to live.
Amazing. Ladies and gents, I told you it was going to be an absolute stonker, a corker. If you've resonated with anything, leave a message, share it with someone. And ladies and gents, until we meet again, that is a wrap. So that was a chat with the king or queen in the game. I'll give it a shout at the end so you all know the name. It's the Film Gods Podcast. The what? The Film God Podcast.